ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors and professionals, listeners and learners. Those who belong to the stream of science, commerce, arts and engineering, the most honorable present Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, respected ministers and doctors, honorable advocates, advertisers, administrators and advisors, reverend fathers and mothers, affectionate sons and daughters. I, Dr. Rakesh from USA, heartily cordially welcome all of you. It is really nice time, nice place, nice section, nice meeting. You are listening the truth of science and spirituality from language to literature. Dear friends, today we will study written by Richard Steele, the Spectator Club. Who does not know about this essayist? Sir Richard Steele, born in Dublin in 1672, was elected as an MP from Stockbridge in 1713. The publication of the pamphlet entitled The Crisis in favor of the Hanoverian succession led to his expulsion from the house in 1714. He was knighted in 1715. His major works include The Conscious, Lovers, Trader Husband, The Funeral, and The Lying Lover. He is known for his family style, humor, gentle irony, and undoubted scholarship. About this essay, in short, in brief, Steele's essay, The Spectator Club, appeared in the Spectator. In this essay, Steele employs gentle humor and irony to highlight the characteristics of his companions and absurdities of the society. He intended to bring about a correction in the attitude of the society by bringing to surface their follies. The essay presents an account of the different characters who are supposed to be members of the Spectators Club. The character Sir Roser, Sir Andrew Freeport, Captain Sentry, and Will Honeycomb are certainly artistic creations. Steele seems to have worked hard in caricaturing the pen portraits of his companions. Steele's prose style is polished, graceful, and elegant. The Spectator Club, the first of our society, is a gentleman of Worcestershire, of an ancient descent, a baronet. His name Sir Roger de Coverley. His great-grandfather was the inventor of that famous country dance which is called after him. All who know that Shire are very well acquainted with the parts and merits of Sir Roger. He is a gentleman that is very singular in his behavior, but his singularities proceed from his good sense and are contradictions to the manners of the world. Only as he thinks the world is in the wrong. However, this humor creates him no enemies, for he does nothing with sourness or obstinacy, and his being unconfined to modes and forms makes him but the readier and more capable to please and oblige all who know him. When he is in town, he lives in Soho Square. He said, he kept himself a bachelor by reason that he was crossed in love by a perverse, beautiful widow of the next county to him. Before this disappointment, Sir Roger was what you call a fine gentleman, had often supposed with my Lord Rochester and Sir George Atherley fought a duel upon his first coming to town, and kicked bully Dawson in a public coffee house for calling him a youngster. But being ill-used by the above-mentioned widow, he was very serious for a year and a half. And though his temper being naturally jovial, he at last got over it. He grew of himself and never dressed afterwards. He continues to wear a coat and doublet of the same cut that were in the fashion at the time of his repulse, which in his merry humors he tells us has been in and out 12 times since he first wore it. It is said Sir Roger grew humble in his desires after he forgot his cruel beauty, in so much that it is reported he has frequently offended with beggars and gypsies, but this is looked upon by his friends rather as matter of raillery than truth. He is now in his 56th year, cheerful, gay and hearty. Keeps a good house both in town and country. A great lover of mankind, but there is such a mirthful cast in his behavior that he is rather beloved than esteemed. His servants look satisfied, all the young women profess love to him, and the young men are glad of his company. When he comes into a house, he calls the servants by their names and talks all the way upstairs to a visit. That Sir Roger is a justice of the quorum. that he fills the chairs at a quarter session with great abilities, and 3 months ago gained universal applause by explaining a passage in the gentleman next in esteem and authority among us is another bachelor who is a member of the inner temple, a man of great probity, wit and understanding. But he had chosen his place of residence rather to obey the direction of an old, humorsome father than in pursuit of his own inclinations. He was placed there to study the laws of the land and is the most learned of any of the house, the most learned of house in those of the states. Aristotle and Longinus are much better understood by him than Littleton or Coke. The father sends up every post questions relating to marriage articles, leases and tenure in the neighborhood, all which questions he agrees with an attorney to answer and take care of. In the lump, he is studying the passions. He is studying the passions themselves. When we should be inquiring into the debates among men which arise from them, he knows the argument of each of the orations of Demosthenes and Tully, but not one case in the reports. Even about the same time, received a kind glance or a blow of a fan from some celebrated beauty, mother of the present Lord, such a one. If you speak of a young commoner that said a lively thing in the house, he starts up, he has good blood in his veins. Tom Mirabel begot him, the rug cheated him in that affair. That young fellow's mother used him more like a dog than any woman I ever met advances to. This way of talking of is very much enlivens the conversation among us of a more sedate turn. And I find there is not one of the company but myself, who rarely speak at all, but speaks of him as of that sort of a man who is usually called a well-bred fine gentleman. To conclude his character, where women are not concerned, he is an honest, worthy man. I cannot tell whether I am to account him, whom I am next to speak of, as one of our company. For he visits us but seldom, but when he does, it adds to every man else a new enjoyment of himself. He is a clergyman, a very philosophic man of general learning, great sanctity of life, and the most exact good breeding. He has the misfortune to be of a very weak constitution, and consequently cannot accept such cares and business as preferments in his function would oblige him to. He is Therefore, among divines, what a chamber councillor is almost lawyers. The probity of his mind and the integrity of his life create him followers as being eloquent or loud advances others. He seldom introduces the subject he speaks upon, but we are so far gone in years that he observes when he is among us. An error fall on some divine topic which he always treats with much authority, as one who has no interest in this world, as one who is hastening to the object of all his wishes and conceives hope from his decays and infirmities. These are my ordinary companions. Dear friends, such as his are very knowledgeable, informative, instructive and directive for all the readers, learners of English literature, those who are preparing themselves for sitting and NET and SLET examination of English literature. Dear friends, now we are proceeding towards the next essay, which has written by Charles Lamb, a bachelor's complaint against the behavior of married people. Very practical approach. The writer has provided it. A bachelor's complaint against the behavior of married people. What are the ideas, autobiographies of Charles Lamb behind writing this essay? Charles Lamb, a famous English essayist, was born on Feb 10, 1775 in London. He received his primary education at Christ Hospital, but due to a series of family tragedies, he couldn't receive higher education. Lamb did not marry because he had to look after his ailing sister Mary. As his Ophelia is his masterpiece. These essays, which he wrote under the pen name Elia, appeared mostly in London magazine. His essays have a peculiar quality of the romantic revival, that is, the discovery of personality and subjectivity of the writer. Lamb is called Prince of Essayists. His essays are a perfect blending of humor and pathos, unfailing expressiveness of language and deep human touch. His major works include Tales from Shakespeare, Essays of Elia, The Adventures of Ulysses, and On the Tragedies of Shakespeare. Dear friends, now you will listen the summary of this essay that will help you in understanding briefly what are the thoughts of Charles Lamb behind this essay. In this essay, Lamb humorously tries to locate the infirmities found in married people and thus finds solace in his state of bachelorhood by stating his personal experiences. He expresses his agony for the behavior of married people who, in Lamb's opinion, pretend to love each other. He admits that he is not jealous of the happiness of married people, but at the same time, he does not want to be reminded of his deformity again and again. He also describes the role of children in determining married people's attitude towards bachelors. He brings out all the negative aspects of having children by saying that it is not easy for unmarried people to love all the children alike. He observes that different children have different characteristic traits and should be judged and praised according to their merits. He also enlists the ways in which ladies offend unmarried men. He concludes by saying that he is exhausted of all married associates. He wants them to amend their sarcastic attitudes. A bachelor's complaint against the behavior of married people. As a single man, I have spent a good deal of my time in noting down the infirmities of married people, to console myself for those superior pleasures which they tell me I have lost my remaining as I am. Dear friends, you are listening. The very important thoughts that was running in the minds of the author as a single man means being a bachelor. I have spent a good deal of my time. How? In noting down the infirmities of married people. How married people are not happy in their life. He was counting closely, nearly, to console myself, for satisfying himself, for those superior pleasures which they tell me I have lost my remaining as I am. I cannot say that the quarrels of men and their wives ever made any great impression upon me. The quarrels of men and their wives ever made any great impression upon me. I cannot say. Or had much tendency to strengthen me in those antisocial resolutions. In what solutions? In what resolutions? Anti-social resolutions. Had much tendency to empower me, which I took up long ago upon more substantial considerations. What oftenest offends me at the houses of married persons where I visit is an error of quite a different description. It is that they are too loving. Not too loving neither. That does not explain my meaning. Besides, why should that offend me? The very act of separating themselves from the rest of the world, to have the fuller enjoyment of each other's society, implies that they prefer one another to all the world. But what I complain of is that they carry this preference so undisguisedly. They park it up in the faces of us single people so shamelessly. You cannot be in their company a moment without being made to feel by some indirect hint or open avowal that you are not the object of this preference. Now there are some things which give no offense while implied or taken for granted merely, but expressed, there is much offense in them. If a man were to accost the first homely featured or plain dressed young woman of his acquaintance and tell her bluntly that she was not handsome or rich enough for him and he could not marry her, he would deserve to be kicked for his ill manners. Yet, no less is implied in the fact that having access and opportunity of putting the question to her, he has never yet thought fit to do it. The young woman understands this as clearly as if it were put into words. But no reasonable young woman would think of making this the ground of a quarrel. Just a little right have a married couple to tell me by speeches and looks that are scarce less plain than speeches that I am not the happy man. The lady's choice, it is enough that I know. It is enough that I know I am not. I do not want this perpetual reminding. The display of superior knowledge or riches may be made sufficiently mortifying, but these admit of a palliative, the knowledge which is brought out to insult me, may accidentally improve me, and in the rich man's houses and pictures, with parks and gardens, I have a temporary usufruct at least, but the display of married happiness has none of these palliatives. It is throughout pure, unrecompensed, unqualified insult. Marriage, by its best title, is a monopoly, and not of the least invidious sort. It is the cunning of most possessed of any exclusive privilege to keep their advantage as much out of sight as possible, that their less favored neighbors, seeing little of the benefit, may the less be disposed to question the right. But these married monopolists thrust the most obnoxious part of their parent into our faces. Patent into our faces. Nothing is to be more distasteful than that entire complacency and satisfaction which beam in the countenances of a newly married couple, that of the lady particularly. It tells you that her lot is disposed of in this world, that you can have no hopes of her, it is true. I have none, nor wishes either, perhaps, but this is one of those truths which ought, as I said before, to be taken for granted, not expressed. The excessive air which those people give themselves, founded on the importance of us unmarried people, would be more offensive if they were less irrational. We will allow them to understand the mysteries belonging to their own craft better than we would have not had the happiness to be made free of the company. But their arrogance is not contained within these limits. If a single person presume to offer his opinion in their presence, though upon the most indifferent subject, he is immediately silenced as an incompetent person. Nay, young married lady of my acquaintance, who the best of the jest was, had not changed her condition above a fortnight before, in a question on which I had the misfortune to differ from her, respecting the properest mode of breeding oysters for the London market, had the assurance to ask with a sneer how such an old bachelor as I could pretend to know anything about such matters. But what I have spoken of hitherto is nothing to the airs which these creatures give themselves when they come, as they generally do, to have children, when I consider how little of a rarity children are, that every street and blind alley swarms with them, that the poorest people commonly have them in most abundance, that there are few marriages that are not blessed with at least one of these bargains. How often they turn out ill and defeat the fond hopes of their parents, taking to vicious courses which end a proverb, disgrace, the gallows, etc. I cannot for my life tell what cause for pride there can possibly be in having them. If they were young phoenixes, indeed, that were born but one in a year, there might be a pretext, but when they are so common, I do not advert to the insolent marriage which they assume with their husbands on these occasions. Let them look to that. But while we are not their natural born subjects, should be expected to bring our spices, myrrh and incense, our tribute and homage of admiration, I do not see. Like as the arrows in the hand of the giant, even so are the young children. So says the excellent office in our prayer book, appointed for the churching of women. Happy is the man that hath his fearful of them. So say I, But then don't let him discharge his word upon us that who are weaponless, let them be arrows, but not gall and stickers. I have generally observed that these arrows are double-headed. They have two forks to be sure to hit with one of the other. As for instance, when you come into a house which is full of children, if you happen to take no notice of them, you are thinking of something else, perhaps, and turn it to their innocent cases. You are set down and untractable morose, a hater of children. On the other hand, if you find them more than usually engaging, if you are taken with their pretty manners and set about in earnest to romp and play with them, some pretext or other is sure to be found for sending them out of the room. They are too noisy, or boisterous, or Mr. Dash does not like children. With one or other of these faults, the arrow is sure to hit you. I could forgive their jealousy and dispense with toying with their brats if it gives them any pain, but I think it unreasonable to be called upon to love them, where I see no occasion to love a whole family, perhaps 8, 9 or 10, indiscriminately, to love all the pretty dears, because children are so engaging. I know there is a proverb, love me, love my dog, that is not always so very practicable, particularly if the dog be set upon you to tease you or snap at you in sport. But a dog or a lesser thing, any inanimate substance, as I keep saying, a watch or a ring, a tree or the place where we last parted upon when my friend went away upon a long absence, I can make shift to love, because I love him, and anything that reminds me of him, provided it be in its nature indifferent and apt to receive whatever you fancy can give it. But children have a real character and an essential being of themselves. They are amiable or unamiable per se. I must love or hate them as I see cause or either in their qualities. A child's nature is too serious a thing to admit of its being regarded as a mere appendage to another being and to be loved or hated accordingly. They stand with me upon them much as men and women do. Oh, but you will say, sure it is an attractive age. There is something in the tender years of infancy that of itself charms us. That is the very reason why I am more nice about them. I know that a sweet child is the sweetest thing in nature. Not even accepting the delicate creatures which bear them, but the prettier the kind of a thing is, the more desirable it is that it should be pretty, it should be pretty of its kind. One daisy differs not much from another in glory, but a violet should look and smell and daintiest. I was always rather squeamish in my women and children, but this is not in the worst. But this is not in the worst. One must be admitted into their familiarity at least before they can complain of attention. It implies visits and some kind of intercourse. But if the husband be a man with whom you have lived on a friendly footing before marriage, if you did not come in on the wife's side, if you did not sneak into the house in her train, but were an old friend in fast habits of intimacy before their courtship was so much as thought on, look about you. Your tenor is precarious. Before a 12th month shall roll over your head, and you shall find your old friend gradually grow cool and altered towards you, and at last seek opportunities of breaking with you. I have scarce a married friend of my acquaintance upon whose firm faith I can rely, whose friendship did not commence after the period of his marriage. With some limitations, they can endure that. But that the good man should have dared to enter into a solemn love of friendship in which they were not consulted, though it happened before they knew him, before they had or now ever met. This is intolerable to them. Every long friendship, every old authentic intimacy must be brought into their office to be used stamped with their currency, as a sovereign prince calls in the good old money that was coined in some reason before he was born or thought of, to be new marked and minded with the stamp of his authority before he will let it pass current in the world. You may guess what luck generally befalls such a rusty piece of metal as I am in these new mintings. Innumerable are the ways which they take to insult and worm you out of their husband's confidence. Laughing at all, you say with a kind of wonder, as if you are a queer kind of fellow that shed good things, but an oddity. But an oddity is one of the ways they have a particular kind of stare for the purpose. Till at last the husband who used to defer to your judgment and would pass over some excrescences of out understanding and manner for the sake of a general vein of observation means not quite vulgar, which he perceived in you, begins to suspect whether you are not altogether a humorist, a fellow well enough to have consulted within his bachelor days, but not quite so proper to be introduced to ladies. This may be called the starting way. This may be called the steering way. And is that which has oftenest been put in practice against me. Then there is the exaggerating way or the way of irony that age, where they find you an object of special regard with their husband. It is not so easily to be shaken from the lasting attachment founded on on esteem which he has conceived towards you by never qualified exaggerations. To cry up all that you say or do, till the good man who understands well enough that it is all done in compliment to him, grows weary of the debt of gratitude which is due to so much candor, and by relaxing a little on his part and taking down a peg or two in his enthusiasm, sinks at length to that kindly level of moderate esteem, that decent affection and complacent kindness toward you, where she herself can join in sympathy with him without much stretch and violence to her sincerity. Another way, means for the ways they have to accomplish to, means for the ways they have so desirable a purpose are infinite each, with a kind of innocent simplicity, continually to mistake what it was which first made their husband fond of you. If an esteem for something excellent in your moral character was that which riveted the chain which she is to break upon any imaginary discovery of a want of poignancy in your conversation, she will cry, I thought, dear, you described your friend Mr. Dash as a great wit. If, on the other hand, it was for some supposed charm in your conversation that he first grew to like you, and was content for this to overlook some trifling irregularities in your moral deportment upon the first notice of any of these. He as readily exclaims, this, my dear, is your good, Mr. Dash. Thanks for your appearance again. One good lady whom I took the liberty of expostulating with for not showing me quite so much respect as I thought due to her husband's old friend, had the candor to confess to me that she had often heard Mr. Dash speak of me before marriage, and that she had conceived a great desire to be acquainted with me, but that the sight of me had very much disappointed her expectations. For from her husband's representations of me, she had news. She had formed a notion that she was so as to see a fine, tall, or wizard-like looking man. Means I use her very words, the very reverse of which proved to be the truth. This was candid, and I had the civility not to ask her in return how she came to pitch upon a standard of personal accomplishments for her husband's friends, which differed so much from his own. For my friend dimensions as near as possible approximate to mine. He is standing 5 feet 5 in his shoes, in which I have the advantage of him by about half an inch, and he no more than myself exhibiting any indications of a marital or a martial character in his air or countenance. These are some of the mortifications which I have encountered in the absurd attempt to visit at their houses. To enumerate them all would be a vain endeavor. I shall therefore just glance at the very common impropriety of which married ladies are guilty, of treating us as if we were their husbands and vice versa. I mean, when they use us with familiarity and their husband with ceremony. Anastasia, for instance, kept me the other night 2 or 3 hours beyond my usual time of supping while she was fretting because Mr. Dash did not come home till the oysters were all spoiled, rather than she would be guilty of the impoliteness of touching one in his absence. This was reversing the point of good manners, for ceremony is an invention to take off the uneasy feeling which we derive from knowing ourselves to be less the objects of love and esteem with a fellow creature than some other person is. It endeavors to make up by superior attention in little points for that invidious preference which it is was to deny in the greater. Had Anastasia kept the oysters back for me, and withstood her husband's importunities to go to supper. She would have acted according to the strict rules of proprietary. I know no ceremony that ladies are bound to observe to their husbands beyond the points of modest behavior and decorum. Therefore, I must protest against the vicarious gluttony of Caressia, who at her own table sent away a dish of morellas which I was applying to with great goodwill to her husband at the other end of the table, and recommended a plate of less extraordinary gooseberries to my unwedded palate in their stead. Neither can I excuse the wanton affront of, but I am weary of stringing up all my married acquaintance by Roman denominations. Let them amend and change their manners, or I promise to record the full length English of their names to the terror of all such desperate offenders in fortune. Dear friends, sometime wait, please just.
बन ले आई हैं? मैं तो मेरे बच्चे बैठे बच्चों को पढ़ा रहा है हैं?
Welcome all of you. Sit down. You may participate in this meeting, and students are listening me. Scholars and learners are sitting in the different universities, colleges and schools. All scholars are listening. Dear friends, today we are studying now mental healings in modern times. Everyone is definitely concerned with the healing of bodily conditions and human affairs. What is it that heals? Where is this healing power? These are questions asked by everyone. The answer is that this healing power is in the subconscious mind of each person, and a changed mental attitude on the part of the sick person releases this healing power. No mental or religious science practitioner, psychologist, psychiatrist or medical doctor ever healed a patient. There is an old saying, the doctor dresses the wound, but God healed it. The psychologist or psychiatrist proceeds to remove the mental blocks in the patient so that the healing principle may be released, restoring the patient to health. Likewise, the surgeon removes the physical block, ennobling the healing grants to function normally. No physician, surgeon or mental science practitioner claims he healed the patient. The one healing power is called by many names. Nature, life, God, creative intelligence, and subconscious power. As previously outlined, there are many different methods used to remove the mental, emotional and physical blocks which inhibit the flow of the healing life principle animating all of us. The healing principle resident in your subconscious mind can and will, if properly directed by you or some other person, heal your mind and body of all diseases. This healing principle is operative in all men, regardless of creed, color or race. You do not have to belong to some particular church in order to use and participate in their healing process. Your subconscious will heal the burn or cut on your hand, even though you profess to be an atheist or agnostic. The modern mental therapeutic procedure is based on the truth that the infinite intelligence and power of your subconscious mind responds according to your faith. The mental science practitioner or minister follows the injunction of the Bible, that is, he goes into his closet and shuts the door, which means he stills his mind, relaxes, lets go, and thinks of the infinite healing presence within him. He closes the door of his mind to all outside distractions as well as appearances. And then he quietly and knowingly turns over his request or desire to his subconscious mind, realizing that the intelligence of his mind will answer him according to his specific needs. The most wonderful thing to know is this: imagine the end desired and feel its reality. Then the infinite life principle will respond to your conscious choice and your conscious request. This is the meaning of belief. This is the meaning of belief. You have received and you shall receive. This is what the modern mental scientist does when he practices prayer therapy. One process of healing. There is only one universal healing principle operating through everything. The cat, the dog, the tree, the grass, the wind, the earth, for everything is alive. This life principle operates through the animal, vegetables and mineral kingdoms as instinct and the law of God. Man is consciously aware of this life principle, and he can consciously direct it to bless himself in countless ways. There are many different approaches, techniques and methods in using the universal power, but there is only one process of healing, which is faith. For according to your faith, it is done unto you. The law of belief. All religions of the world represent forms of belief, and these beliefs are explained in many ways. The law of life is belief. What do you believe about yourself? Life. And the universe, it is done unto you as you believe. Belief is a thought in your mind which causes the power of your subconscious to be distributed into all phases of your life according to your thinking habits. You must realize the Bible is not talking about your belief in some ritual ceremony from institution, man or formula. It is talking about belief itself. The belief of your mind is simply the thought of your mind. If thou canst believe all things are possible to him that believeth, Mark chapter 9, 23 sentence. It is foolish to believe in something to hurt or harm you. Remember, it is not the thing believed in that hurts or harms you, but the belief or thought in your mind which created the result. All your experiences, all your actions and all the events and circumstances of your life are but the reflection and reactions to your own thought. Dear friends, prayer therapy is the combination, is the combined function of the conscious and subconscious mind. Scientifically it is created and directed. Prayer therapy is the synchronized, harmonious and intelligent function of the conscious and subconscious levels of mind, specially directed for a definite purpose. In scientific prayer or prayer therapy, you must know what you are doing and why you are doing it. You trust the law of healing. Prayer therapy is sometimes referred to as mental treatment, and another term is scientific prayer. In prayer therapy, you consciously choose a certain idea, mental picture or plan which you desire to experience. You realize your capacity to convey this idea or mental image to your subconscious by feeling the reality of the state assumed. As you remain faithful in your mental attitude, your prayer will be answered. Prayer therapy is a definite mental action for a definite specific purpose. Let us suppose that you decide to heal a certain difficulty by prayer therapy. You are aware that your problems or sickness, whatever it may be, must be caused by negative thoughts charged with fear and lodged in your subconscious mind, and that if you can succeed in cleansing your mind of these thoughts, you will get a healing. You therefore turn to the healing power within your own subconscious mind and remind yourself of an infinite power and intelligence and capacity to heal all conditions. As you dwell on these truths, you fear will begin to dissolve, and recollection of those truths also corrects the erroneous beliefs. You give thanks for the healing that you know will come, and then you keep your mind off the difficulty until you feel guided. After an interval, to pray again. While you are praying, you absolutely refuse to give any power to the negative conditions or to admit for a second that the healing will not come. This attitude of mind brings about the harmonious union of the conscious and subconscious mind, which releases the healing power. Dear friends, who is your true healer and helper? The truth of the language to literature, power and energy of the words help you in healing and helping your soul. Faith healing, what it means and how blind faith works. What is popularly termed faith healing is not the faith mentioned. Is not the faith mentioned in the Bible, which means knowledge of the interaction of the conscious and subconscious mind. A faith healer is one who heals without any real scientific understanding of the powers and forces involved. He may claim that he has a special gift of healing, and the sick person's blind belief in him or his powers may bring results. The voodoo doctor in South Africa and other parts of the world may heal by incantations or touching the so-called bones of saints or anything else may heal a person, which cause the patients to honestly believe in the method or process. Any method which causes you to move from fear and worry to faith and expectancy will heal. There are many persons, each of whom claims that because his personal theory produces results, it is therefore the correct one. This, as already explained in this chapter, cannot be true. To illustrate how blind faith works, you will recall our discussion of the Swiss physician French Anton Mesmer in 1776. He claimed many cures when he stroked diseased bodies with artificial magners. Later on, he threw away his magners and evolved the theory of animal magnetism. This he held to be a fluid, which pervades the universe but is most active in the human organism. He claimed that his magnetic fluid, which was going forth from him to his patients, healed them. People flocked to him, and many wonderful cures were effected. Mesmer moved to Paris, and while there the government appointed a commission composed of physicians and members of the Academy of Science, of which Benjamin Franklin was a member, to investigate his cures. The report admired the leading facts claimed by Mesmer, but held that there was no evidence to prove the correctness of his magnetic fluid theory, and said the effects were due to the imagination of the patients. Soon after this, Mesmer was driven into exile and died. In 1815. Shortly afterwards, Dr. Brad of Manchester undertook to show that magnetic fluid had nothing to do with the production of the healings of Dr. Mesmer. Dr. Brad discovered that patients could be thrown into hypnotic sleep by suggestion, during which many of the well-known phenomena ascribed to magnetism by Mesmer could be produced. You can readily see that all these cures were undoubtedly brought about by the active imagination of the patients, together with a powerful suggestion of health to their subconscious minds. All this could be turned blind faith, as there was no understanding in those days as to how the cures were brought about. Subjective faith and what it means. You will recall the proportion which need not be repeated at length, that the subjective or subconscious mind of an individual is amenable to the control of his own conscious or objective mind as it is by the suggestions of another. It follows that whatever may be your objective belief, if you will assume to have faith actively or passively, your subconscious mind will be controlled by the suggestion and your desire will be fulfilled. The faith required in mental healings is a purely subjective faith, and it is attainable upon the creation of active opposition on the part of the objective or the conscious mind. in the healing of the body of it is, of course, desirable to secure the concurrent faith of both the conscious and subconscious mind. However, it is not always essential if you will enter into a state of passivity and receptivity by relaxing the mind and the body and getting into a sleepy state. In this drowsy state, receptive to a subjective impression. B. Recently, I was asked by a man, how is it that I got a healing through a minister? I did not believe that when he told me that there is no such thing as disease and that matter does not exist. This man at first thought his intelligence was being insulted, and he protested against such a palpable absurdity. Palpable absurdity. The explanation is simple. He was quitted by soothing words and told to get into a perfectly passive condition, to say nothing and think of nothing for the time being. His minister also became passive and affirmed quietly, peacefully and constantly for about 1/2 hour that this man would have a perfect health, peace, harmony and wholeness. He felt immense relief and was restored to health. It is easy to see that his subjective faith had been made manifest by his passivity under treatment, and the suggestion of perfect healthfulness by the minister were conveyed to his subconscious mind. The two subjective minds were then in rapport. The minister was not handicapped by antagonistic autosuggestions of the patient arising from objective doubt of the power of the healer or the correctness of the theory. In this sleepy, drowsy state, the conscious mind resistance is reduced to a minimum and results followed. The subconscious mind of the patient, being necessarily controlled by such suggestion, exercise its function in accordance therewith, and a healing followed. Dear friends, the meaning of absent treatment. Suppose you learned that your mother was sick in New York City and you lived in Los Angeles. Your mother would not be physically present where you are, but you could pray for her. It is the Father within which does the work. The creative law of mind means subconscious mind serves you and will do the work. Its response to you is automatic. Your treatment is for the purpose of inducing an inner realization of health and harmony. This inner realization acting through the subconscious mind operates through your mother's subconscious mind, as there is but one creative mind. Your thoughts of health, vitality, and perfection operate through the one universal subjective mind and set a law in motion on the subjective side of life, which manifests through her body as a healing. In the mind principle, there is no time or space. It is same mind that operates through your mother, no matter where she may be. In reality, there is no absent treatment, or as opposed to present treatment, for the universal mind is omnipresent. You do not try to send out thoughts or hold a thought. Your treatment is conscious movement of thought, and you become conscious of the qualities of health, well-being, and relaxation. These qualities will be reshifted in the experience of your mother, and results will follow. The follower is a perfect example of what is called absent treatment. Recently, a listener of our radio program in the Los Angeles proved as follows for her mother in New York City, who had coronary thrombosis. The healing presence is right where my mother is. Her bodily condition is but a reflection of her thought, lifelike shadows. Cast on the screen. I know that in order to change the images on the screen, I must change the projection reel. My mind projection reel, and I now project in my own mind the image of wholeness, harmony, and perfect health for my mother. The infinite healing presence which created my mother's body and all her organs is now saturating every of her being, and a river of peace flows through every cell of her body. The doctors are divinely guided and directed, and whosoever touches my mother is guided to do the right thing. I know that disease has no identity. If it had, no one could be healed. I now align myself with the infinite principle of love and life, and know and decree that harmony, health, and peace are now being expressed in my mother's body. She prayed in the above manner several times daily, and her mother had a most remarkable recovery after a few days, much to the amazement of her specialist. He complimented her on her great faith in the power of God. The conclusion arrived at in the daughter's mind set the creative law of mind in motion on the subjectivity side of life, which manifested itself through her mother's body as perfect health and harmony. What the daughter felt as true about her mother was simultaneously resurrected in recalling the experience of her mother, releasing the kinetic action of the subconscious mind. A psychologist friend of mine told me that one of his lungs was infected. X-rays and analysis showed the presence of tuberculosis. At night, before going to sleep, he would quietly affirm, every cell, nerve, and muscle of my lungs are now being made whole, pure, and perfect. My whole body is being restored to health and harmony. These are not its exact words, but they represent the essence of what he affirmed. A complete healing followed in about a month's time. Subsequent X-rays showed a perfect healing. I wanted to know his method, so I asked him why he repeated the words prior to sleep. Here is his reply. The kinetic action of the subconscious mind continues throughout your sleep time period. Hence, give the subconscious mind something good to work on as you drop off into slumber. This was a very wise answer. In thinking of harmony and perfect health, he never mentioned his trouble by name. I strongly suggest that you cease talking about your ailments or giving them a name. The only sap from which they draw life is your attention and fear of them. Like the above mentioned psychologist, become a mental surgeon. Then your troubles will be cut off. Like dead branches are pruned from a tree. If you are constantly naming your acts and symptoms, you inhibit the kinetic action, which means the release of the healing power and energy of your subconscious mind. Furthermore, by the law of your own mind, these imaginings tend to take shape as the thing I greatly feared. Fill your mind with the great truth of life and walk forward in the light of love. Dear friends, you are noting down practical techniques in mental healings. Practical techniques in mental healings. An engineer has a technique and a process for building a bridge or an engine. Like the engineer, your mind also has a technique for governing, controlling, and your life. You must realize that methods and techniques are primary. In building the Golden Gate Bridge, the chief engineer understood mathematical principles, stresses and strains. Secondly, he had a picture of the ideal bridge across the bay. The third step was his application of tried and proven methods by which the principles were implemented until the bridge took form and we drive on it. There also are techniques and methods by which your prayers are answered. If your prayer is answered, there is a way in which it is answered, and this is a scientific way. Nothing happens by chance. This is a word of law and order. In this chapter, you will find practical techniques for the unfolding and nurture of your spiritual life. Your prayers must not remain up in the air like a balloon. You must go somewhere and accomplish something in your life. When we come to analyze prayer, we discover there are many different approaches and methods. We will not consider in this book the formal ritual prayers used in religious services. These have important place in group worship. We are immediately concerned with the methods of personal prayer as it is applied in your daily life and as it is used to help others. Prayer is the formulation of an idea concerning something as something we wish to accomplish. Prayer is the soul's sincere desire. Your desire is your prayers. It comes out of your deepest needs and it reveals the things you want in life. Blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. That is really prayer. Life is hunger and thirst for peace, harmony, health, joy, and all the other blessings of life. The passing over technique for impregnating the subconscious. This consists essentially in inducing the subconscious mind to take over your request as handed by the conscious mind. This passing over is best accomplished in the reverie-like state. Know that in your deeper mind are infinite intelligence and infinite power. Just calmly think over what you want, see it coming into fuller frustration, fuller privation from the moment forward. Be like the little girl who had a very bad cough and a sore throat. She declared firmly and repeatedly, "It is passing away now. It is passing away now. It passed away in about an hour." Use this technique with complete simplicity and naivety. Your subconscious will accept your blueprint. If you are building a new home for yourself and family, you know that you would be intentionally interested in regard to the blueprint for your home. You would see to it that the builders conformed to the blueprint. You would watch the material and select only the best wood, steel, in fact the best of everything. What about your mental home and your mental blueprint for happiness and abundance? All your experiences and everything that enters into your life depend upon the nature of the mental building blocks which you use in the construction of your mental home. If your blueprint is full of mental patterns of fear, worry, and anxiety or lack, and if you are despondent, doubtful, and cynical, then the texture of the mental treatment you are weaving into your mind will come forth as more toil, care, tension, and anxiety and limitation of all kinds. नमस्ते भाइयों बहनों, बच्चों, बुजुर्गों, भारतवासियों, विद्वान विदुषियां, माननीय सम्माननीय मंत्रिमंडल सदस्य, आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत, अभिनंदन। आज, अब और यहाँ इस समय जिस दौर से हमारा भारत देश गुजर रहा है, ये दौर वास्तव में एक पुनर्जीवित करने वाला, फिर से हमारे भारत की प्राचीन परंपराओं को, विरासत को, संस्कृति को उभारने वाला ये वो महीना अगस्त का महीना है, जिसका प्रत्येक दिन आजादी के दिवस के रूप में मनाया जाता है। इसका प्रत्येक दिन हमारी आत्मा की आजादी का दिन है। तो भारतीय भाइयों बहनों, हमारे देश की विशिष्ट पहचान वो क्या है? विभिन्नता में एकता। हमारा देश अनेकताओं में, विभिन्नताओं में, विचित्रताओं में और अनेकताओं से भरा हुआ देश, रंग रंगीला भारत देश, ऐसा रंग रंगीला देश, ऐसा सुंदर, ऐसा रंग बिरंगा, ऐसा रंगीन, ऐसा खूबसूरत देश, पूरी दुनिया का सिरमौर देश यदि कोई है तो वो है हमारा भारत देश। भारत देश के तिरंगे की शान, आन बान को ऊंचा करने के लिए और इसके लिए मर मिटने के लिए और इसके लिए कुर्बान होने के लिए तन मन धन से हमारे भारत के वर्तमान प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का एक महान संदेश और आह्वान पूरी दुनिया के लिए, एकता में अनेकता का और अनेकता में एकता का। कैसे? क्योंकि हमारे भारत के सभी मूल निवासी जो किसी भी क्षेत्र में, किसी भी देश में बैठे हैं, उन सबको हमारे इस विकासशील देश का, उन विकसित देशों को वो महान संदेश दिया जाता है कि भारतवासी आप सबके लिए वो शांति की कामना लेकर आते हैं। वो शांति, सुख, समृद्धि, जोश में होश और शांति का प्रतीक तिरंगा झंडा लहराने वाले ये हमारे भारत के देशवासी, पूरी दुनिया के अंदर इस तिरंगे का परचम लहराने वाले भारतवासियों का नाम, अव्वल दर्जे का नाम हमारे आज के शासक प्रशासक जो हमारे इस भारत सरकार की नींव को मजबूत किए हुए हैं, जिन्होंने हमारे भारत सरकार के इस नींव के ऊपर एक महान मजबूत इमारत की बुलंद किया है, जिनमें हमारे आज के प्रधानमंत्री महोदय जी और चुने हुए देश के 14वें उपराष्ट्रपति महोदय हैं और चुने गए 15वें देश के राष्ट्रपति महोदय, जो कि जमीन से आसमान तक की ऊंचाइयों को छू लेने वाले, फर्श से अर्श को कर देने वाले ऐसे महान शख्सियत, ऐसी महान विभूतियां जिस देश में हैं, उनके होते हुए भी ये देश कभी बेरोजगार नहीं रह सकता, कभी किसी प्रकार की समस्याओं से, बीमारियों से, बुराइयों से ग्रस्त नहीं हो सकता, क्योंकि वो जमीनी व्यक्ति हैं। तो भारतीय भाइयों बहनों, हमारा भी एक परम लक्ष्य बनता है कि हम भारत के एक सुयोग्य नागरिक होकर के भारत के इस तिरंगे के परचम को पूरी दुनिया में लहराने के लिए वचनबद्ध रहें और कल्पनाबद्ध रहें, कटिबद्ध रहें। और हमारा भारत देश ऐसा देश जिसकी आन बान शान को कोई आज तक ठेस नहीं पहुंचा सका, ये हमारे तिरंगे को स्थापित करने वाले महापुरुष, जिन्होंने इस तिरंगे की शान, आन बान को ऊंचा करने के लिए, हमारे सांस्कृतिक मूल्यों को बनाए रखने के लिए, हमारे सामाजिक मूल्यों को बनाए रखने के लिए, हमारे संविधान की सुंदरता को, संविधान की ईमानदारी को और ज्यादा उत्कृष्ट बनाने के लिए हमें अधिकार प्रदान किए गए। हम अधिकारों का पालन तभी सुचारू रूप से कर सकते हैं यदि हम अपने कर्तव्यों का पालन से ढंग से करने लगे। तो भाइयों बहनों, ये हमारा एक महान कर्तव्य है कि हम अपनी मातृभूमि के लिए प्रतिदिन, प्रत्येक दिन, चाहे वो इस महीने का है, चाहे वो वर्ष का दिन है, हमारे लिए प्रत्येक दिन एक नया दिन होता है। हमारे हर भारतवासी के लिए जो इस मातृभूमि से प्रेम रखता है, जो देश प्रेमी है, जो प्रकृति प्रेमी है, वो वास्तव में अपने इस मातृभूमि का सच्चा प्रेमी तब है यदि वह भारत की संस्कृति का अपने आप में अनुभूति रखता है। इसकी अनुभूति हमारे भारतवासियों को वो महान संदेश देती है, उनके अंदर एक नया जोश जागृत करती है। तो भारतीय भाइयों बहनों, हमें वो संदेश जो हमारे महापुरुषों ने पूरे विश्व स्तर पर प्रदान किया, और वो स्वामी विवेकानंदा जिन्हें भारत के महान समाज सुधारकों में से एक माना गया, वो हमारे युवाओं के प्रति युवाशाली बनाने के लिए न हमारे केवल युवाओं को ही एनर्जी नहीं भरते, हमारे हर भारतीयवासी को तेजस्वी बनाने के लिए, ओजस्वी बनाने के लिए स्वामी विवेकानंदा जो पूरी दुनिया के अंदर गए और उन्होंने हमारी संस्कृति का परचम लहराया, ये कहते हुए कि भारतीय भाइयों बहनों, हमें अपनी इस धरा को और भी ज्यादा सुंदर बनाना है, और ज्यादा साफ सुथरा बनाना है, और ज्यादा इसकी सफाई करनी है। क्यों? क्योंकि हम भारत के वो उत्तरदायित्व रखने वाले, कर्तव्य निष्ठा का पालन करने वाले, वो इसकी सुचारू प्रक्रिया को चलाने वाले लोगों में से एक हैं। हर भारतवासी का, हर नागरिक का जो अपना देश से प्रेम करता है, जो इस राष्ट्रभक्ति से प्रेम करता है, उसका निश्चित ये लक्ष्य बन जाता है विभिन्नता में एकता रखने वाला ये देश, जहां पर समय समय पर अनेक महापुरुषों ने जन्म लिया, जिस धरती के ऊपर ऐसे महापुरुष, संत, पीर, फकीर, ऋषि, मुनि, अवतार हर समय आते रहे, और जिन्होंने पहले अपना एक शरीर धारण किया, शरीर रूपी मंदिर के अंदर, मस्जिद के अंदर, गुरुद्वारों के अंदर वो आए, फिर उन्होंने जर्रे जर्रे में उस भगवान की स्तुति को, भगवान की मौजूदगी को, वजूदगी को हर जगह महसूस किया। ये वो देश है, ये वो देश है, ये उस देश की संस्कृति है। ऐसी महानता लिए हुए ये हमारा भारत देश, विभिन्नता में एकता रखने वाला देश, धर्मनिरपेक्ष का पालन करने वाला देश, क्या कभी बुराइयों से, बीमारियों से, कमजोरियों से ग्रस्त हो सकता है? कभी नहीं हो सकता। क्यों? क्योंकि इसके अंदर वो जोश आज भी महापुरुषों की वाणी के रूप में मौजूद है। चाहे वो महापुरुष जिन्होंने हमारे देश के लिए कुर्बानियां दी, बलिदान दिए, शहीद हुए, वो अपने लिए नहीं बल्कि निस्वार्थ के लिए, दूसरों के लिए करने का जज्बा, जोश, जुनून की लहर जो उनमें दौड़ती थी, वो प्रकाश की किरण, वो आवाज की तरंगें, वो कुर्बानी की लहरें रखने वाली ये मातृभूमि, ये भारत माता, जिसे हमारे सभी धर्मों में कहा गया कि भारत की भूमि हमारी माता है, पानी हमारा पिता है, पवन हमारा गुरु है। हमारे सभी पवित्र महान ग्रंथों के अंदर महापुरुषों ने समय समय पर यह हमें संदेश दिया और आकर के प्रकृति के साथ सामंजस्य स्थापित किया, और हमारे अंदर ये भावना देशभक्ति की कूट कूट कर भरने का जज्बा उन महापुरुषों ने उठाया। क्या हम स्वार्थ के लिए जीने के लिए पैदा हुए हैं? क्या हम एक पशु से भी गए गुजरे हो सकते हैं जो अपना जीवन जीने के लिए सेवार्थ में लगे रहते हैं, सेवार्थ जीवन जीते हैं, जीते जी भी सेवार्थ जीवन जीते हैं, और मरणोपरांत भी उनके सारे शरीर को काम लिया जाता है। लेकिन हम मनुष्यों का जीते जी भी कुछ काम नहीं आता, और मरने के बाद तो आना ही क्या है। भाइयों बहनों, यदि हमें अपने इस मनुष्य जन्म का फायदा उठाना है, जिससे हमारा पंचभौतिक शरीर बना, एयर, फायर, सोइल, स्काई, वाटर, ये पंचभौतिक शरीर जिससे बना है और जिसमें मिल जाना है, और यदि हम इसके लिए वचनबद्ध नहीं है, यदि हम कर्मबद्ध नहीं है, चरम लक्ष्य हासिल नहीं किया, परम लक्ष्य हासिल नहीं किया जीवन का, तो ये पांचों तत्व हमारे अंदर एक ऐसा असंतुलन प्रकृति के अंदर पैदा करने के लिए तैयार बैठे हैं और हम इसका खमियाजा भोगने के लिए तैयार बैठे हैं। ऐसा न हो कि ये प्रकृति के आगे मनुष्य को झुकना पड़े, क्योंकि प्रकृति मनुष्य की दास रही है। सबसे बड़ा सर्वोपरि स्थान भगवान का होना चाहिए, क्योंकि भगवान ने जिस प्रकृति को बनाया है